So the switch to turn things on in this room is right here. As you come into this corner, again, it's something that docents want to do. We don't want visitors to mess with the turning on of stuff. The bottom one controls the fan, which is turning this right here. It's already on, okay? When you hit that bottom one, if you're the first one in, it may take 10 seconds for the air draft to come up and turn the pyramid. Originally, this pyramid would have been lit by candles. You can imagine the fit that the fire marshal would have if we lit it up with candles. So we've got a fan back here hidden and arranged. Try not to change it around because it took me about 5 or 10 minutes to get it the right speed and the right angle to make it turn. But that's the bottom one switch on this. Okay? So, we have two things that light up in this room. Right around the corner, the first thing is the last thing. Of course it is, right? So this is a 1900 tree. This is an electrically lit tree. This is the only one that would have been electrically lit. Now, remember, fire marshal won't let us put real candles on the trees, so we have electric candles. These are Edison light bulbs. The first electrically lit tree was in 1882. In 1895, the White House had electric lights. I'm pretty sure that Victoria would have had electric lights on a tree before her death, although we have no direct record of it. And they would have been light bulbs that looked like these. They look like small miniature Edison light bulbs. The spike at the top is where the air was exhausted out to create a vacuum on the inside. Okay? And they're in the shape of an egg. So, the tree is then also decorated with small ornaments, glass icicles. Again, this is on a dimmer switch. Those will go brighter, but they're really, really hard to find, as you can imagine. So, we've got them on a dimmer switch. This is a candle chime. It's a one that runs by candles. The reason I put it here is because I have one just exactly like it that's been electrified that would go on a tree at this time period. I haven't found it yet. Since last Christmas, we've had plumbers in the house. We've had our house totally rewired, and everything is not where it should be. So when I find it, I will put it back here. Okay? This is a Bliss sled. That's the name of the company. It's paper over wood. Same time period that we've been talking about. This is a Santa nodder. Okay, it's a clockwork. There is no key in it. I put the key away. I'll be the only one that winds it up. However, when I come in, okay, and I wind it up, you can make it work if it's wound by just touching the head. And once I get it perfectly balanced, it is very finicky. Once I get it perfectly balanced, it will go for about 6 hours. So, if you want to be able to show it to different visitors as they come in, again, if you just kind of touch the head up, gently, it will stop, and you'll be able to run it again for the next people to come in. Any questions on this particular tree? Okay. This one is also late. This would be from somewhere between 1890 and 1910. About 1880s, they started making ornaments that were figural. They made them in molds. So you'll see there's angels and Santas and birds and a wide range of different things on this tree. And they were made in molds, which is going to be very different from the ones that we see on other trees. The stand that is on is a music box stand. It has, inside this glass frame here, it has a wheel, a metal wheel. When I bought this, I got like 12 or 14 different discs. About 3 of them are Christmas. The others are waltzes and dinner music and things like that from the time period, because after Christmas is over, this lifts off and you just have a music box. At Christmas time, you put the cup back on there and you have a Christmas tree stand. So this piece right here, we'll turn it on and turn it off. Again, I will wind it up. Don't want any visitors or the docents to wind it up. But when it's wound up, if you lift this up, you can watch the disc go around, you can listen to the music, you can see the tree turn. And by pushing down on this, it will stop it. I try and keep them so that, the treetop faces out as opposed to looking at the back of Santa Claus. On the table beside it, we talked about the fact that these were made out of molds. These are original ornament molds. Okay? These are what they were blown into. This particular one is a bell shape. I've got a mold for a Santa, and actually a Santa that was made from that mold. 2 of them are birds, and this particular piece is used to make indents. Sometimes they call them reflectors. Well, the glass is still hot, this was pressed into it, and this is the result that you get. So, and then right behind it, and I know, from where you're at, it's kind of hard to see, but right behind it is a display of how these are actually made. This is the process. A bubble is blown into one of these molds, and it takes the shape of the mold. This is the blowing in, hand blown. Then it's silvered. A lot of these, the silver is fading. One of the things that people may ask you is, oh, I got auctions all the time, and they call this stuff, what do they call it? What kind of glass? You guys know?
Mercury or?
Mercury glass. Yeah, there is no mercury in these. It's one of my pet peeves. There's no mercury in these. Mercury is poisonous. It killed people. This is silver nitrate. It's the same thing you put on the back of mirrors. Same thing that's on mirrors. Why? Because the mirrors reflect the light. Your candles are on the outside, the ornaments are on the inside, and they're designed to reflect the light. So this shows you a series of 5 of how that's made. In the back is a castle, a Santa Claus, Belschnickel, Father Christmas. He's a candy container, he opens up at the waist. And a farm and a zoo set made out of chromolithograph. Chromolithograph, we're going to see lots of them as we go through. It's a process that's made color, litho, stone, art, drawing, okay? So these were made on stone pieces. Every color that you see on them was a separate printing process. These are all flat and held up by a small piece of metal to hold them in place. This whole set, this folds up, and it's actually the box that holds everything. It all folds into a single box. This is one of the earliest trees. This is the edible tree. Everything on this tree was designed to be eaten. These type of trees will go all the way back into the Middle Ages. The very first decorations on trees were cookies and apples. And we've got that going back into the 1300s. Okay? And it was called a paradise tree. Okay? The apple represented the first sin of Eve taking the apple off the tree. The cookie was the wafer, the redemption. Okay? These trees did not go into the church. They were outside the church, so there couldn't be a real wafer on it, so they used cookies. So apples and cookies were the first things. And later on, when we started making things out of glass, red glass ornaments were very popular. So, your candy list on there will give you some idea of the things that are on this. There are, let's see, 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 crackers on that, which is an English tradition. Who knows what the English tradition of crackers? If you would like to open a cracker and show everybody else how it works.
Yes, that kind of cracker. The one from
Jason, we'll have Jason do it.
Yeah. Now you can get crackers, reproduction crackers, Home Goods, TJ Maxx, a lot of them carry them. Yeah.
You all see, you've seen this before.
What'd you get?
So it's got a cracking sound, you know, a pop, like a cap. And on the inside, there's usually little gifts.
And a joke.
A joke, what they call a motto, might be a fortune, a hat. On the very earliest ones, it was typically just a piece of candy. I mean, expensive candy.
Now you get things like this. What's worse than a giraffe with a sore throat? A centipede with sore feet. You're welcome.
So, if there is one like this one, I mean, take a good look at it. If there's one like this one laying on one of the spots, when you've got a nice collection of people coming through with you, you can pop one open. I mean, these are obviously new. You'll be able to tell them that, and it's not going to be on the tree. So you can pop this open, or you can have an adult or a little kid pop it open, you know. And they can have the stuff that's on the inside, and you can just throw this away. We can get these at Home Goods, you know. It's not a problem. Okay, so this one is electrically lit. This one also turns. Okay, there's a swish. These are not sponges. These are marshmallows. These are period-style marshmallows. They don't look anything like the Stay Puft Man. So when somebody looks down underneath this beside the peanut brittle, they say, "What are those, sponges?" No, those are marshmallows. But between this peanut brittle and the sponges is the switch that will make this turn. Okay? And you say, well, it turns, how come the electric wires don't get tangled up? Well, there's a disc in there that slides over the top of another disc that keeps it electrified. Originally, it would have just been candles, and it would have been an issue. Underneath is a waxed linen cloth with a Santa on it, Merry Christmas. This keeps the candle wax from ruining your furniture. Okay? So, this particular one is 3 foot by 3 foot. It fits just nicely inside this fence. Any questions on this tree?
I want to point out something about the cookies. Okay? Some of these are not cookies. I mean, there's a real cookie down here, and so is this one. But like this one over there is plastic, the clay. It's hardened clay. But those are all pressed into a mold, and you can see some examples of them over there. You can still find some of these. I think there's a bakery in German Village that does them. But the cookie itself is really, really hard, and usually they taste like licorice. Okay? Yeah, I have a cookie mold book at home that talks about the history of them. But that's what you can see. Well, there's a chocolate one, which is kind of rare. But you can see them all over the tree. I think that was the only thing that I wanted to mention, other than the cookie box, or the candy box over here, the Mozart one. It goes way back, which is why it's on the tree.
Ribbon candies on there.
Yeah, ribbon candy's on here too.
So, while we're talking about this one, oranges. You're going to see oranges on several trees. Oranges were very expensive. They don't grow naturally in England. They had to be imported at Christmas time. It was a long trip by boat and train and carriage to get to a store, and they were very expensive. So when they were put on the trees or in the stockings, it was a real gift. I know in the 1950s when I was growing up, there was always an orange in your stocking. It's just, traditional. Same thing with bananas. Again, more of a tropical fruit. Those were both expensive.
Lots of the palaces actually had huge greenhouses, so they had fruit year-round.
I have a question. I know, is there a pickle on that tree?
No,
Oh, there's one on this.
there's one on this
Pickle on
one.
this
And
one.
there is a reason for the pickle,
Well,
right?
yes and no. Tell me your explanation and then I'll tell you the
What I
truth.
heard was if the child wasn't good, they got a pickle. It wasn't sweet.
Okay. Well, the other one that is really popular, and it started in the 1990s, is you put a pickle on the tree and the child that finds a pickle gets a gift, right?
I heard that.
Think about this. Why a pickle? Why couldn't it be find the angel and get a present? Find the Madonna and child, get a present. Why couldn't it be, oh, you were lucky, you found it. Here's the horseshoe with the horse in it. Good luck, you got good luck. Why a pickle? The real reason why there's a pickle ornament is because Grandma took the cucumbers from the harvest and pickled them. On Christmas Eve, they were ready to be eaten. Christmas Eve had pickles. There are fish on the trees. Two reasons. First, it was a symbol of Christ. Second, it was a traditional Christmas Eve, Christmas Day meal in England.
Did you want to point out the two perfume bottles on that one that are used as ornaments?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There are two small, there's the fish up there.
No, I mean these two.
Oh, okay, right here. There's a little black boy and a little brown dog, okay? Painted, and they have silver or gold tops. Those were also perfume bottles, okay? Glass blowers tried to make a living. They were one of the poorest people in Germany, glass painters, okay? So they had I will make it and you sell it any way you want to as long as you're buying it from me. So these are not silvered on the inside, they're clear glass. Small bits of perfume were put into it. They would have been very inexpensive. When the perfume was done, you could hang it on your Christmas tree. So some people say, oh, they were perfumes. Yeah, so. And I have, from a later time period, the 1920s, they did what they call art glass. And they were designed as knickknacks. They went on top of your tables, they went on the mantels, they went on your Christmas tree. And they were filled with liquor and handed out. I've got some of them with still the liquor in them, and it tells you what the liquor is, and there's a little sticker on the bottom, container made in Germany. Same thing. When the liquor's gone, you put a cap on it and you hung it on your Christmas tree. So over here is the molds and stuff for making cookies. Glass candy containers came out at this time period in the 1890s. So I've got two Santas and a boot. This has got the original candy in it still.
And notice it's sprinkles.
These are sprinkles.
They're sprinkles.
This bottle, Merry Christmas, is a liquor bottle. It holds about maybe 2 shots, maybe just 1 shot. It's a very thin bottle. On the trees, you'll notice that we've got lots of gilded walnuts, and we'll have gilded or silvered fruit, especially apples. This is what the Victorians used to gild and silver those. Okay? Christbaum, this is in German. Christbaum silver, so it's silver, for decorating apples, nuts and apples, etc., on the Weihnachtsbaum, the Christmas tree. This one is Schumgold for decorating nuts, apples, etc. on the Christbaum, on the Christmas tree. So, gold is inert. So silver, you can actually eat it. It's not a problem. But when you've got silver nuts, you're going to throw away the shells anyway. But gilded apples can be eaten. These are very rare. These two pieces. Okay, they are spikes to spike your oranges and your apples and your pears to hang them on the tree. This part would go down into the apple, the loop goes over the limb. Okay, this one's an angel, this one's a swan. Okay? So you can imagine, you know, how hard those are to find today. These larger ones are clear glass or clear sugar candies. There's a book right back there, clear toy candies. This particular one is George Washington. They are the precursors, 1860s. These molds are from the 1860s, 1870s. These are precursors to the day lollipop and suckers, except they came in shapes. It's the same sugary type of stuff. Clear, and then you added some flavoring to it. So on display is George Washington and fish. And then there are some cookie cutters over here, a gingerbread man, a gingerbread woman, a heart, and a Santa Claus. This one's a little bit hard to see, and I may put it on the scavenger hunt type thing that we're going to do for kids. But here's the top of Santa, here's the tree, here's his outfit, here's his feet. It'll be easier to see once you pressed him into and made a cookie out of him. This particular one is, it's new, but it was made in an old chocolate mold. So this is what an old, you know, piece of chocolate of a Santa would have looked like, a German Santa. Okay, so this is in plaster, but the original would have been in chocolate. All right, let me talk about the pyramid. The pyramid dates from about 1890. It was bought from a gentleman in Germany. And it came with a lot of the figures that you see on it. It was probably made in the Sturgeon Mountain Black Forest area, which is where Prince Albert was from. So we don't have a record of one of these being in one of their palaces, but he would have been familiar with this as a concept. They have become popular in the United States over the last about 20 years. If you go to Home Goods, you'll find pyramids that are like this, you know, up to a foot. The 3-footers, the 4-footers are very rare. They seem to be stopped being made sometime in the 60s from the Würzburg region. And the large ones, this one is 5 foot tall, are extremely hard to find. This would have been set up in an entryway to a large house, okay, so that you could walk all the way around it. It did not come with the fence and all the other figures. These are 12 figures. They are the 12 disciples, which is really unusual for a Christmas decoration. The bottom shows the wise men coming. Traditionally, and again, we've kind of lost it in the United States over the years, traditionally, 3 wise men came on 3 different animals. Okay? The European wise man came on a horse. The African came on an elephant. And the Middle Eastern one came on a camel. So you will find elephants in here, camels in here. Finding a rider on each one of those is really, really hard to find. They almost always, you know, wanted, and after the turn of the century, wanted to put them onto camels. So, wise men coming. This is the nativity scene, Joseph, Mary, and the adoration. Germans always included in their nativity scenes a hunting scene. I don't know the reason why, but there's always some kind of a hunting scene. And you have this hunting scene up here with hunters and animals. And at the very top is angels. And if you have guests that stand right here, slowly this will stop because they're blocking the fan. So, the garden. It tells the story of the nativity, and it goes clockwise starting right here. Okay? So this is the herald angel giving the good news to the shepherds in the field. So you'll find lots of shepherds, you know, and lots of sheep. You know, there's a swine herdman in here. Here's, you know, the fire, you know, where they're cooking, and some, you know, sleeping shepherds right in here. You know, kind of looking it over and seeing the things, you know, that you think is interesting. There's a little bit of a pond with swans on it. These were made out of porcelain, and they're called floaters. You could actually have water, and these would float on them. Some of the really elaborate Christmas gardens that people made during the Elizabethan or the Victorian time period had real water flowing through them, and real water in ponds. So we have then kind of an exit moving into the next section. We have the sheep and things leaving here, and we have wise men coming in. So you've got the wise men coming in on their trip. This section shows kind of an overnight stay, you know, around the fire, cooking, things like that. And then moving forward again in motion with, you know, pack animals and servants leading. And over through here, then they're breaking through this gateway into the next scene. This is the typical scene of the nativity with the creche or the stable scene. You know, the adoration of the Magi, townspeople, shepherds, okay? And then we have a gateway again to the next one. This one is Bethlehem, and this is the flight to Egypt, which concludes the nativity story. So in this one, we have Mary on the donkey with Jesus in her arms, being led by Joseph and two angels to, you know, exit out of, you know, the story exiting out of Bethlehem. We've got a fountain over here, and townspeople doing townspeople type things. Any questions about the pyramid?
There are some weird things in the
Yeah.
garden. We're not gonna point them out because I think what we're gonna do is they're gonna do a Where's Waldo list so that people can look for things, so we're not gonna point them out.
There's an aardvark in there. There's a flamingo in there. Things that should not be, right? And a buffalo. And this particular scenery down through here. An aardvark, a flamingo, and a buffalo. None of which would have belonged in a typical scene. So,
The other weird one in here is the dog with the rabbit in its mouth.
Oh my
That's a really,
which is up on the hunting scene.
yeah, but it's a really rare one.
Oh my goodness.
Dog with a,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, between these two mantles, we have the gift givers. These are the European, well, it also includes an American, gift givers. Okay? One of the things that Victoria has noted as being the grandmother of Europe. Those 9 children all go off and marry other kings and queens. And their grandchildren become kings and queens. World War II, 1914, or excuse me, World War I, 1914. 3 cousins, all Victoria's grandchildren. The King of England, the Kaiser of Germany, the Tsar of Russia are all her grandchildren.
What's a mother to do?
So, we have a representation of all those gift givers from those different cultures, okay, that would have been known to royal families because they all intermingled. They all had to kind of understand and accept those different cultures. Starting on the end, we have St. Nicholas, which would have been popular in any Catholic country. Okay? Something that's really different about the St. Nicholas figures that we won't find in the others. St. Nicholas is a saint. He's a good guy. He's not going to beat the bad kids with sticks. So you have to have a punisher. So, in the southern areas of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, St. Nicholas comes with Krampus.
A what?
Who's that?
Krampus.
Krampus.
K-R-A-M-P-U-S.
Krampus.
Okay? Dark clothes, he's got a whole basket full of switches. He's the punisher. Okay? Typical family. Santa on December the 6th. Knock, knock, knock on the door. Oh, it's St. Nicholas. Oh, come on in. Krampus is right behind him. Susie, can you say your catechism? Oh, yes, St. Nicholas. And she says her catechism. Has she been good? Oh, Mom and Dad says she's been wonderful. Okay. Edmund. What about Edmund? Oh, he starts into the catechism and he messes it up badly, and Mom and Dad says he's been throwing mud at his sister. And so he's turned over to Krampus, and Krampus will actually beat him with switches.
Oh.
I mean, the Germans didn't mess around. You know, we just talked a few weeks ago to a girl that grew up in Germany. He was real. He was frightening. Okay? We had on one of our tours in Germany, we had a German tour guide, Austrian. And I had bought some antique Christmas stuff at a shop. And I said, do you know about Krampus? I said, yeah, I have Krampus and St. Nicholas. Yeah. I was up on my grandparents' attic, and he's about 60.
Yeah.
I was up in my grandparents' attic, and I opened up a chest, and there was a St. Nicholas outfit in this chest. He said, I screamed and I ran. And I said, why did it bother you to find out that St. Nicholas was just a guy in a costume? He says, no. Wherever St. Nicholas is, Krampus is not far behind, and I wasn't going to get caught in that dark attic. So, kids right before or during the this time period of December the 6th, were given little bags of candy like this one. It says, Gruß von Krampus. Greetings from Krampus. It was a reminder that you better shape up. Okay? And some ornaments. Finding ornaments with St. Nicholas on it for a Christmas tree is unusual because it's a different time period of the month. But this one's got St. Nicholas on the front. It's spun glass, and it's got Krampus on the back. So,
if you guys are interested or you want to know something more about Krampus, go into YouTube and punch in Krampus, and you can see these huge parades they have to this day
in
with
the
Krampus.
Krampus parades, hundreds of the Krampuses. One St. Nicholas and one Christkindl that comes with him. One girl, one St. Nicholas, hundreds of the Krampuses.
That's not good.
Okay? And homemade outfits, always fur, always a scary mask. And they're always, in these parades, they're 16, 17, 18-year-old boys. You can tell what they're going to do, right? Okay? They take their switches and they spank the 18 or 17-year-old girls in the audience, with them. And in the bars, there's a thing on that night, St. Nicholas night. If I can drag you out of the bar, you have to kiss me. You know, so the Krampus figures go in and they drag out the, 16, 17, 18-year-old girls. You know. So, enough about Krampus. The Christkindl, okay, these are called Christkindls, but they're really Christmas angels. But again, that idea of Christkindl, the Christ child, evolves into a young Christmas angel. And there are lots of images of St. Nicholas and her, and there are lots of images of her along with the northern Germany. In northern Germany, you're going to find the Weihnachtsmann, because that is the Protestant area. And the Weihnachtsmann comes on Christmas Eve, like Santa Claus today. Okay? So the southern Germany kids kind of felt cheated. Oh, no, nothing happens for us on Christmas Day. So there was an evolution, a cultural evolution, that the Christkindl would come on Christmas Day and bring gifts to children. This is the English Father Christmas. Jolly old guy, usually, and wears holly wreaths, carries a small tree on a spike like this that, oftentimes had birds and things like on it. He's very much an Anglo-Saxon type of thing. If you've ever watched the stories, the old movies of
Dickens' Christmas Carol.
Yeah, Christmas Carol. The spirit of Christmas present is always this kind of jolly guy, big drinking horn of ale and eggnog and lots of feasting and that's the English Father Christmas. That's who he is.
Yeah, that's what
These two in the center are French, and he was called Pierre Noël.
Père Noël.
Pierre Noël,
Père
Father Christmas. I mean, it's the same type of concept. Long hooded gown. This one's a candy container, opens up at the bottom. These are the northern German Weihnachtsmann. Sometimes they were called Pels Nicole, which meant Nicholas in furs, as opposed to in the ecclesiastical gown. And it got corrupted in the Low Countries and in the United States in the Belschnickel. But originally it was Pels Nicole. Got corrupted to Belschnickel. So, the big thing that we've got here is that just like Santa Claus today, Santa brings you toys, he puts coals in your stocking. He's the punisher and the gift giver all in one. So the Pelsnickel, the Belschnickel, the Weihnachtsmann becomes both. So in this image we see him carrying a Christmas tree. He's got a smiley face on. He would bring you gifts because you've been good. And this one, darker colored outfit, kind of a teethy, not smile, and he's carrying switches. So, he does both. I have one in my collection which is two-faced, returning. Okay? I've never left the house because my children, who are now all adults with kids of their own, would have a fit if he wasn't on my mantelpiece at home, because they grew up with him. He would go back and forth depending upon their behavior. And it was like, here's the message. There's nothing going to be under the tree if that frowny face with the sticks is facing out when you go to bed. So it was kind of a gauge of how life was going. These are Swiss. They're both on skis. They're both a Swiss. This is Swedish. It's a gnome-like figure. Nissa, N-I-S-S-E. Brings the gifts there. This one is Italian. Befana, B-E-F-A-N-A. There's several different legends, but she's a, Italian peasant. The wise men come asking for directions. How do we get to, how do we get to Bethlehem, where the Christ child things is? She says, I don't know. I'm too busy cleaning my house. She's always got a broom. I'm too busy cleaning my house. And then she has a dream that night that says, and she's distraught because she's lost a child. She has a dream that, maybe this is her child that's being born. And she decides that she wants to go, but the wise men are long gone. So she spends her life, rest of her life, searching for the Christ child, you know, and things like that. So she always has a broom because, you know, legends are, if you've been good, she will clean your house when she drops off stuff. She'll sweep the house out for you. But she had sticks for the bad children, and she had cookies and candies and goodies for the good ones. And then this one is the one we kind of recognize. Oh, that's the American Santa Claus. Well, this one is, you know, if you look size-wise, this one is more of the Thomas Nast Santa Claus. If you look from the 1860s, 1870s, Thomas Nast Santa Claus is diminutive. He is about this tall. He's about the size of a 5-year-old. Okay? He's not the big, robust Santa that we get, that we now call the Coca-Cola Santa with collectors. So this is that 1860s, 1870s, 1880s Thomas Nast Santa, much smaller. Okay, then we've got a couple things over here. Advertisement from the turn of the century, a supplement out of Harper's Weekly from this time period. This one is an image of one of these. Okay. And then 2 plates. These are negatives on printings on glass. So these are probably from the 1880s. And they've been, oh, they didn't have color photographs. No, these were all painted. The photograph would then be painted by hand. They did that into the 50s and 60s. My mother was a painter or a photographer. Take black and white pictures and then paint it. And those colors do not fade. If you've got pictures from the 1950s in color, they're already turning yellows and greens and things like that. So these, so it's a story. I only know of 2. And here's the 2 little girls. Here's the fireplace. They're hanging their stockings up. They're tired. They're rubbing their eyes. You know, they're in their nightgowns. This is their bedroom, and they're getting ready for bed. Here's the same 2 little girls in the same basic scenery, catching Santa Claus in their bedroom. Today we think that's kind of creepy. See this guy with his really wild hair, long beard, stuffing things into their stockings, you know, toys and things like that. But they come out and they catch Santa. So, questions in this room before we move on? All right, this slide.